So for learning objective B, we're going to factor just like we did, but this time we're going to take the factors, set them equal to 0, and solve. And the difference is it's going to tell you to solve versus factor, and I can tell because it's in an equation. Now I want you to take this one, by the way, and adjust it. Let's put a minus 4x squared here, not a plus. Now we're going to do like we did yesterday, and we're going to realize there's 4x's here, and there's 3 here, and there's 2 here. At most, I can pull out 2 from everything. So let's take out the 2. That leaves me with 2 in the first term, 1 in the next, and then they're all gone there with just minus 4. Then I'm going to do like we've done before. We're going to break this trinomial up into 2 different binomials. We're going to factor it further. The x squared is first here, so it gets broken up first there. The only option for x squared is x and x. The negative 4 is last here, so it's last in each group here. The options for negative 4 would be I could use 4 times 1 or 2 times 2. Now it has to multiply to negative 4, so we'd have to have a negative somewhere. Maybe it's negative 4 and 1, or 4 and negative 1. Maybe it's negative 2 and 2. I have to put them in the order here such that it's going to add to negative 3x. If you do that, a negative 4 plus 1 multiplies to negative 4. If you test it out, this will be a negative 4x. This is a plus 1x, which adds to negative 3x, so we have it. So this is completely factored. The last thing you do for factor and solve is you just take each factor, this one, and this one. You set them equal to 0, and you solve. So this learning objective is incredibly similar to factoring, but you take the factors and go one step further. I'm going to start over here. To get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 1. So x is equal to negative 1. Here I'm going to add 4. So x is equal to 4. Over here, be careful to get rid of a square. You can take the square root of both sides. Here, x would be equal to 0. So we have 3 different answers there. I'm going to practice some more factor and solve. So I'm going to change this problem a little bit and get rid of the word factor. And we're just going to actually solve. To do that, I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now it's ready to factor and solve. So again, if we look at it, I can notice that I can take out an x squared from all 3 pieces. So we take x squared out. We'll be left with x to the 4th plus 2x squared minus 24. I'm going to keep the x squared here, but factor out this x to the 4th. X to the 4th can be equally broken to an x squared and x squared. Again, it's first here, so it must be first here. The negative 24 goes here and here. Numbers that multiply to 24 would either be 24 and 1, 8 and 3, 6 and 4, 12 and 2. There's a lot to choose from. We have to find the combination that multiplies and gets me negative 24, but adds to 2. So that means I'd have to come in here and maybe make different numbers negatives. So these all multiply to negative 24. Do any of the 2 add to a positive 2? This combo would if I change the negative signs. So why don't we try plus 6 minus 4? Because if we do that, 6 times negative 4 is negative 24, and it should add to 2. So plus 6 minus 4. And then if we want, we could try to further factor, or we can just set them equal to 0 and solve. I am going to factor this 1 here further. X squared minus 4 is the same as x plus 2, x minus 2. And then I still have x squared plus 6 and x squared. Now it's factored as far as I can go. What I'm going to do is take the factors, this one, this, and that, set it equal to 0, and solve. Get this one, and these last 2 will be pretty quick. To solve this last one, x minus 2 equals 0, we're going to add 2 to both sides. and we get 2 as an answer. For this one, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides and get negative 2 as an answer. I'm going to go to the first one here. To get rid of the squaring, I can take the square root, and I get an answer of x equals 0. This middle one here is a little trickier. We're going to have to subtract 6 from both sides. We get x squared equals negative 6. We're going to come in and get rid of the squared by taking the square root. Now be careful. We've seen this before. This is a complex number. It's going to be an imaginary solution. This actually simplifies to x equals, remember to get rid of the square root of a negative is the number I, so I'm going to pull the letter I out actually, and I'm going to keep the square root of 6. So this is actually x equals I times the square root of 6. I will tell you on this one, because it's a quadratic or we took the square root, it's a plus or minus. There are 2 possible answers for that one, either plus 6 or minus 6. Because if I put that back into x and square it, the negative would go away, so it doesn't make a difference. Let me give you one more for example. Let's put this in standard format first, and we're going to solve it. So let's change it from factor to solve. And we'll write it in standard format. So that would be 4x to the 5th plus 16x cubed minus 20x. And let's make it an equation so we actually do the solving. Now in this one I can pull out a common number or factor of between 4, 16, and 20. I can pull out a 4. And I can also pull out an x from each one. That would leave me with x to the 4th plus 4x squared minus 5. The factoring on this one is similar to our last. X to the 4th goes x squared. Factors of negative 5 that add to a positive 4 would be a positive, if you multiply positive 5 and negative 1, that multiplies a negative 5, but it adds to positive 4. So plus 5 minus 1. Now instead of factoring further, because it's solve, I actually, when it's down to an x squared, can just set each of these factors equal to 0. It's a shortcut. Because this last one here is factorable, but I don't necessarily have to factor it. Here's what I can do. I'm going to take x squared minus 1, set it equal to 0, and solve. And the same thing with x squared plus 5 equals 0, and 4x equals 0. 4x equals 0, I'm going to divide both sides by 4, so x here equals 0. I'm going to go to the last one here. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, so x squared equals 1. I'm going to get rid of the squared by taking the square root, which gives me x equals a positive 1. But you have to be careful. Positive 1, if you put it back into here, 1, if you square it, gives you 1. But so does negative 1. There's 2 answers here, a plus or a minus. Whenever you have a quadratic is what this is called, it means there's 2 answers, the plus or minus. Let's do the middle one. We're going to minus 5 from both sides. So we get x squared equals negative 5. And then we're going to take the square root again. Taking that square root did cause a plus and a minus to actually happen, so I'm going to rewrite it as x equals, I'll put the plus and minus there right now. Be careful, this is a square root of a negative number. That negative square root pops out of there and changes to positive, but I put an I out here, and I put the square root of 5. So that's the final answer.